Hi everyone! Happy Easter and welcome to our new series, Conquer. Today is the day that I love celebrating. We celebrate Easter because it represents the day that Jesus conquered death and rose again. Jesus gave his life for you and I, and then death was defeated when Jesus rose from the grave. Jesus' resurrection means everything for us. He conquered death so that we can have eternal life in heaven with him. But not only in heaven. Because of Jesus, you and I can have freedom here on earth too. Our Bible story for today begins with Mary and Mary Magdalene visiting Jesus' tomb days following his crucifixion. Let's read and find out what happened. Early on Sunday morning, as the new day was dawning, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went out to visit the tomb. Suddenly there was a great earthquake, for an angel of the Lord came down from heaven, rolled aside the stone, and sat on it. His face shone like lightning, and his clothing was as white as snow. The guards shook with fear when they saw him, and they fell into a dead faint. Then the angel spoke to the women. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I know you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He isn't here. He has risen from the dead just as he said would happen. Come see where his body was lying. And now, go quickly and tell his disciples that he has risen from the dead, and he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Remember what I have told you." The women ran quickly from the tomb. They were very frightened, but also filled with great joy, and they rushed to give the disciples the angel's message. And as they went, Jesus met them and greeted them, and they ran to him, grasped his feet, and worshiped him. Matthew 28, 1 through 18. Can you imagine what an incredible moment that must have been? Jesus risen from the dead and standing there right in front of you. So I want you to imagine being there and being one of Jesus' followers at that time. They had put their whole faith and hope in Jesus. They chose to leave everything else behind and to follow him. They believed he was the Messiah, sent by God to save the world. They saw him perform miracles, and they learned from his teachings. And then they watched the one that they believed would save them be killed on a cross and buried in a tomb. Then there were 2 long days of silence and waiting. And I bet they were afraid and very confused and sad and disappointed. But that morning when the 2 Marys went to the tomb, everything changed. Jesus wasn't there. He had risen from the dead just as he had said he would. And in that moment, everything he said was proven to be true. He conquered death, and that means we don't have to be afraid of what the future holds because we are conquerors with him. Today we'll be focusing on this one thing. I choose faith over fear because Jesus is alive. So what does this have to do with you and I today? Well, I want us to take away 3 main things from today's story. Number 1, come and see. The angel told the women to come and see for themselves that Jesus had risen from death just as he told them he would. In that moment, all the fear and sadness and disappointment that they had felt left, and faith rose up inside of them as they realized everything Jesus had said really was true. They believed and they put their trust in him. The first step for you and I today is that we have to come and see Jesus for ourselves. We have to see that he is who he says he is, that everything he promised is true. And then we have to believe him and put our trust in him. We can make him the leader of our lives so that we can fully experience the amazing life that he has for each of us. Number 2, remember what he told us. The angel wanted Mary and Mary Magdalene to see the empty tomb so that they could go and tell everyone. Have you ever heard someone else tell a story, and then when you tried to repeat it, you forgot some details? Or you hear a story from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend, and all of a sudden the story isn't the same story anymore? When we come and see Jesus, we get to experience a relationship with him personally. And experiencing the story for yourself is the best way to share it with others. And the angels wanted that for the 2 women. Our relationship with Jesus is different from everyone else's, and it's personal, but we get to experience him firsthand, and we get to share our story with others. The angel told Mary and Martha to go and tell others what they had experienced, and that's exactly what we're supposed to do. We can tell our story. And that's why number 3 is go and tell. If they didn't believe it after speaking to the angel, they surely believed after running into Jesus and seeing him and speaking to him for themselves. They had to have great faith in Jesus and believe that he rose from the dead. And remember, they saw his empty tomb and an angel. Those things could have scared them away, but instead, it only brought them closer to Jesus. Seeing Jesus in person must have been so overwhelming. Probably a little bit scary because they had seen this man die. It would have been a lot to take in, and I'm sure they were relieved and scared and shocked all at once. And now they get to go and tell others what they've experienced. And that's what Jesus wants from us. He wants us to go and tell others about the amazing things that he's done in our lives. First of all, he died and rose again so that we could have a right relationship with God the Father. And when we make him the leader of our lives, he transforms us into the person that he made us to be. We have to actively choose to have faith rather than fear on a daily basis and to make it a habit. And when we make faith a habit, then we immediately turn to Jesus in times of fear rather than acting on our own. Take, for instance, Mary and Mary Magdalene. They were terrified when they saw the angel appear before them, but because they had faith, they didn't fall down in fear as the guards did. And then later in the story, the verse specifically said that they were frightened when they ran away, but they were also filled with joy. It would have been impossible to completely overcome fear in such a short time that was such a life-altering experience. But because they had faith, they were also filled with joy as they ran to spread the news. Over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be memorizing John 16:33. Let's read it together. I have told you all of this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth, you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world. John 16:33. Jesus overcame the world so that we can have peace in him. Today, I want you to come and see Jesus for yourself. If you have never decided to get to know him for yourself, then today is the day. We would love to pray with you and celebrate with you as you choose to follow Jesus for yourself. And then I want us all to take some time remembering all that God has spoken to us and all that we have seen him do in our lives. Remembering Jesus will strengthen your faith, and then you can go and share him with someone that you know. Because Jesus chooses you and I, and he overcame everything for us. And that is too good of news not to share.